You've heard of the 5 tiger generals of the 3 kingdoms. These were some of China's most ferocious warriors who carried out heroic deeds that became legendary. And Chinese history is full of legendary generals. The general I want to talk about today stands alone as a shining star. He is famous for his skill with the spear, his ability at archery, his role in the battles to defend the Song Dynasty from invasions from the north, and above all, his loyalty to the country. He was so loyal, he even had the words 尽忠报国, with utmost loyalty serve the country, tattooed on his back. His story is one of perseverance, sacrifice, and has a somewhat tragic ending. This is the story of Yue Fei, China's greatest general. Yue Fei was born in the Song Dynasty in the year 1103 in Henan province, China, to a family of farmers. Apparently, when he was born, a bird flew overhead, and thus the family named him Fei, which means to fly in Chinese. Since his family name was Yue, his full name was Yue Fei. They also gave him a courtesy name of Peng Ju, which means to be lifted up by a fabulous bird. This is recorded in the biography of Yue Fei in the history of the Song, or Song Shi. It goes on to say that within a month of his birth there was a flood, and Yue Fei's mother, clutching Yue Fei, escaped in a massive urn. It floated on the water and was washed to dry land by a wave. People were amazed by this miraculous survival. I guess by this they are saying that he was someone special and had divine protection even from a young age, and he does seem pretty incredible. This is how the history of the Song records him growing up. When he was born, he had divine strength. Before even reaching 20 years old, he could handle a 400-pound bow and a crossbow of 8 stone. He studied archery with Zhou Tong and mastered everything Zhou Tong could teach him. He could shoot well, left or right-handed. There is a story about Yue Fei shooting 9 arrows into the bullseye of a target to pass the military exam, although that may be exaggerated or based on fictional accounts. When Yue Fei's teacher Zhou Tong died, on every single full moon, Yue Fei would go and offer sacrifices at Zhou Tong's grave. His father thought that he behaved very righteously, saying, "If you can do this in the future and devote yourself to the country like this, it would be great." Well, this sowed the seed of a theme that would run through Yue Fei's whole life: loyalty. And Yue Fei really did devote himself to the country. But before we get into that, I know that our audience are from all over the world, and many of you are studying or traveling in China or other countries. And that is why I've partnered with Saily by NordVPN. Saily is an eSIM that provides an easy way for you to get cell phone service and internet in other countries where your phone plan from home may not work or may hit you with massive roaming charges. Simply download the Saily app, choose a plan for the country you're visiting, and get connected. Saily plans are available for over 200 destinations, which include individual countries or whole regions, useful if your trip takes you to several places. Saily also has advantages over other eSIM apps in that it lets you choose a virtual location, it has an ad blocker that saves your data and increases browsing speed, and Saily will also block malicious sites and online threats. So what are you waiting for? Click the link below to download Saily, and exclusively for my viewers, you can get 15% off when you use my code LEARNCHINESE at checkout. Yue Fei enlisted in the army in 1122 to help defend the Song against the Jurchens who were attacking from the north. According to legend, he almost didn't go due to having to take care of his sick and elderly mother. This was him displaying the traditional Chinese virtue of filial piety, or xiaoxun, that is, loyalty to one's parents. But just like his father had told him when his master Zhou Tong died, loyalty to one's country should be placed above all else. Yue Fei's mother is then said to have tattooed the characters 尽忠报国, meaning serve the country with utmost loyalty, on his back. Now, there are different versions of how this tattoo came about, since Yue Fei is a great hero and he has been fictionalized in many different books over the years. The one about him getting it from his mother comes from a novel called 说岳全传, or The Complete Story of Yue Fei, written in the Qing Dynasty. But hey, maybe that was what actually happened, and it was only passed down verbally until it was written in that novel. But however he got it, it is believed that he really did have this tattoo. It is mentioned in his biography in the history of the Song. We'll tell you more about that later. So once in the army, Yue Fei defended the original Song capital Kaifeng in 1127, and when the city did eventually fall to the Jurchen Jin dynasty, he was tasked with defending the Yangtze River to prevent the Jin from advancing further south. Throughout the Song-Jurchen Wars, Yue Fei worked hard to win back territory that had been conquered in the north. He rose in rank to become a general and then came to be regarded as one of the 4 generals of restoration, Zhongxing Sijiang. And here is a classical scroll of the 4 generals of restoration, each one standing with their attendant. Yue Fei is the second person from the left. So I guess he was part of a list after all. Throughout the 1130s, Yue Fei kept leading armies against the Jin. He was recognized by the Song court and received the honor of being put in command of the Song's largest army. Yue Fei made it his mission to retake Kaifeng, and he made great progress, culminating in the Battle of Yanchang or Yanchang Zhizhan in 1140. This battle was actually fought against orders from Emperor Gaozong, who had sent out an envoy to tell Yue Fei to withdraw, but Yue Fei didn't listen. Now, Yue Fei won the battle, and the emperor was pleased with this victory. But why did he order Yue Fei to pull out in the first place? Well, this is where the story starts to take a dark and tragic turn. In 1126 AD, when Kaifeng fell, Emperor Huizong was captured along with his eldest son Qinzong and 3,000 members of the royal household. They were taken into Jurchen territory. Among them was an official named Qin Hui, who later claimed to have made a sudden miraculous escape and showed up at the now southern Song Dynasty's court and became a high-ranking minister in the year 1131. He advocated a strategy of pacifism and wanted to sign a treaty with the Jin dynasty instead of trying to retake the north. Yet his escape itself was suspicious. Perhaps he didn't escape at all, but was instead released with conditions. At this time, the southern Song dynasty was being ruled by Emperor Gaozong, who was the 9th son of Emperor Huizong and was only emperor because he wasn't present in Kaifeng at the time when the imperial household was captured. Thus, he was now first in line for the throne. By 1140 AD, Huizong had already died, but his son Qinzong was still alive inside Jurchen territory. So if he had been rescued, or if the north was retaken and Qinzong was freed, he in theory would be the rightful ruler and would have been able to replace Emperor Gaozong. You see where we're going with this? So we have a motive for Gaozong to not be too enthusiastic about retaking the north and freeing his brother. If Gaozong maintained the status quo and the current smaller territorial boundaries, at least he could be the emperor of something. If they got the north back, he would have to abdicate. Then we also have a possible reason why Qin Hui advocated for pacifism and a treaty instead of letting Yue Fei retake the north. Perhaps the Jin only spared his life and released him after reaching an agreement that he would persuade the emperor to take such a course of action. So Qin Hui and Gaozong wanted to sign a treaty with the Jin, but they had a problem. Yue Fei, the greatest and most loyal general, was dead set on retaking the north, and he was about to march on Kaifeng. At first, the emperor perhaps wanted to give Yue Fei a chance, but Qin Hui supposedly convinced him that Yue Fei was amassing power for himself, and when the moment was right, he would turn on the emperor and found his own dynasty. Which, to be honest, looking at the way other Chinese dynasties fell, is actually believable, and it seems that Gaozong took the bait. He sent out another order to Yue Fei, ordering him to return to the imperial court. And this time, Yue Fei did as the emperor asked, fearing internal chaos if he refused. But realizing what Qin Hui's plan might be, he knew there was risk in going. But Yue Fei's loyalty to the country won out. He put his life in the emperor's hands and traveled back to the capital. As he left, he lamented to the troops, 10年之功毁于一旦, 10 years of effort destroyed in one morning, referring to all the territory that they had recaptured now being left open to invasion. Now, Yue Fei never actually made it to the court. Qin Hui sent out an envoy to arrest Yue Fei on his way back. When the envoy intercepted Yue Fei's party, Yue Fei proclaimed his loyalty to the Song by displaying his tattoo in all its glory. Yue Fei opened his garment to reveal his back. There were 4 characters. With utmost loyalty served the country, deep within his skin. When it was inspected, it was found to be real, proving his innocence. But this didn't matter. The plan had been set in motion, and the wheels of history were turning. It seems the Song Dynasty was destined to lose the north, and nothing could stop it. Back in the capital, Qin Hui imprisoned Yue Fei and interrogated and tortured him for 2 months. Qin Hui's wife even took part in looking for evidence of Yue Fei's wrongdoing, but they found none. In the end, Qin Hui simply had him executed. The Song Dynasty signed the Treaty of Shaoxing, or Shaoxing Heyi. This was a humiliating treaty that set the borders of the weakened southern Song Dynasty and the Jin and forced the Song to send tribute of silver and silk to the Jin every year. For China, this was a time of sadness and reflection. Scholars focused on small, achievable goals like development of the family and the village instead of grand plans. Even artists of the time started leaving big, empty spaces in their works, representing the loss of the north and the feeling of emptiness. Although Yue Fei's life ended in tragedy, decades later, after his grandson Yue Ke wrote a biography of his grandfather, Emperor Xiaozong dissolved the charges against the already long-dead Yue Fei and restored his honors. Iron statues of Qin Hui and his wife were erected kneeling before Yue Fei's tomb, and over the years it has become customary for people to spit on these statues. Yue Fei has been remembered as probably the greatest general in Chinese history, who, although through no fault of his own, ultimately failed to save the northern Song Dynasty. He set the standard for what a general should be. He really did serve the country with utmost loyalty. Alright guys, that is the video for today. Thank you for watching. Please leave your comments about Yue Fei below, and a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Saily. Click the link below to download Saily, and exclusively for my viewers, you can get 15% off when you use my code LearnChinese at checkout. If you support our sponsors, you are supporting us, and we will be able to keep on making more exciting content about Chinese history and culture. Thanks everyone for watching. Please subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.